Let's go to, again, the lifeline of the show, which are the telephone callers. Good evening, Oble from the Republic of Zambia. You're most welcome to Straight Talk Africa, Oble.
Good evening, Shaka.
I am hugely terrific, and by the way, Happy New Year to you, Oble.
Happy New Year to you too. That's been a long time.
That is correct. So what's your question, sir?
Yes, Shaka, I just want to find out from the panel, is there a way in which African society, that is a civil society, a recourse for them to pursue if they discover that some broadcasters are broadcasting certain things which are inimical to society at the international level? Because there are certain countries like Ethiopia and certain countries in Southern Africa where you cannot trust their legal system. So is there a way in which some civil society would use in order to at least punish certain broadcasters who broadcast certain things which are inimical to the local society?
What about that, David?
Well, I think you know, civil society groups are entitled to their own views and should express them. If they feel that something is being said that shouldn't have been said, they have the right to say so and probably should do so. That's about it, though. I mean, what do you think, Professor?
Yeah, no, I think I can go. I think you have a right as leaders of these NGOs in Africa to express your opinion. You live in a global system today. Now, the Voice of America is a very useful instrument of education and communication. So we are the academicians. We are reading the newspapers, we're watching the blogging and everything in the internet. So when we come here, we are mindful of what you are saying. And we want our colleagues here who are working as broadcasters to know what we know is going on. So if you are opposition to a political party, and the political party is a dictatorship, lo and behold, there are some of us who are going to express the opinion correctly, as we see it.
Now, David, talk to us about the vision thing, and in particular, your vision for the coverage of Africa, really. And you can also perhaps tell us a little bit about some specific initiatives that VOA might implement towards reaching that vision.
Well, you know, Shaka, we reach an estimated 50 million people in the continent of Africa alone. It's a huge audience. It's 38% of our worldwide audience. And we also believe, for a variety of reasons, that there is a lot of growth potential for Voice of America's audience in Africa. A lot of people interested in having the kind of journalism that we're trying to offer. And we're looking at new ways of reaching more people. The mobile phone, I mean, it's an explosion. It's a revolution, an information revolution that's happening. Everybody's getting one, right? And that's a way through which to reach people with information. So we're exploring different ways of doing that. We've got a program, for example, in Mali right now, where we put short radio newscasts available by calling a phone number in French, and actually also on an experimental basis in Songhai in the north of Mali, because a lot of the radio stations have been closed down by the rebels up there. And we want people to be able to know what's going on in their world, particularly in their part of the world. So this is an experiment. You can be walking along the phone holding a phone to your ear and nobody will know you're listening to the radio, and you're hearing things from outside of that rebel-held area. So this is an experiment to use the mobile phone. There are other ideas. We have a dial-up radio, which is reaching a lot of diasporas around the world, and reaching Zimbabweans who are not in Zimbabwe, for example, with the Zimbabwean broadcast. So we're trying a lot of different things with that mobile phone. We have a new anti-polio program that will start soon in Hausa, in northern Nigeria, and the rest of the Hausa area, which is being funded by the U.S. Center for Disease Control. We're very excited about that program. And I've got some music programming ideas that I'm excited about, and obviously the report started with Leo Sarkeesian, and his heir is Heather Maxwell, the new African music queen, I would say, at VOA.
And
we've got some
money, actually, for a long time.
That's right.
Yeah.
She lived in Mali. And we've got some other new shows that are coming out, which we hope will be popular in Africa. I've got this pamphlet here. We've got something called VOA's Music Alley, and we're doing a new show called Beyond Categories with Eric Felton, one of your colleagues. It's mostly a jazz-oriented show. And then Live at the Hamilton, which is a show where we go to concerts with different kinds of American music, and we just play it for half an hour. And it's a lively, exciting show. I think music is one of the things America has to offer, and of course it's one of the things that Africa has given so much to the rest of the world on as well.
Very interesting. Let's go again to the lifeline of the show, which are the telephone callers. Let's go to Yaila from the Republic of Ghana. Good evening, Yaila. You're most welcome to Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you. Shaka Sally, we are very grateful. I am very grateful for the good work you're doing for Africa especially. And I would want to urge you on and then ask you this. What sort of measures are being put in place to make sure that the foreign aids that come into Africa are well utilized to the benefit of the common African? Because most of the times it ends up in the pockets of politicians, which we know don't go well at all. We want to ask if there are measures that are being taken by the countries that give us the aid, so that to make sure that these aids are well utilized for the purposes with which we are sent to the countries. And then, so I'd want to ask if you that we look up to, especially you, Sakasali, and then other diplomats and other prominent Africans abroad, if you are doing something to make sure democracy in Africa is well entrenched and every African benefits very well from whatever government sits on power. So this ethnic wars and then misunderstandings we see here and there can be stopped, so we can have a very successful Africa. If there are some things you, the prominent ones abroad, are doing. Thank you very much.
Profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled for your compliments, Yaila. What about his question, Professor? Would you like to give it a shot?
Yeah, I think I'm very happy that there are a lot of, you're in the biblical narrative, a voice of one crying in the wilderness. You have a lot of people out there who are listening to what you're doing here. We are separated by time and space from those people, but you can hear the voice. He is telling you, Voice of America is giving me confidence that my grievance, my commands, my dreams are being listened to. So we should absorb what he is saying and make it categorically clear that so long as you're struggling toward democracy and economic development, you are not alone. You have people on the other side of the Atlantic who are listening. And of course the director is here, you are here, I'm just your guest. And you have all your colleagues working in the Voice of America. It's a challenge to all of you and all of us and to our leadership.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Suleiman. Suleiman from South Africa. Good evening, Suleiman. You're most welcome to Straight Talk Africa.
Good evening, Shaka.
Terrific, terrific. Happy New Year to you, Suleiman.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to your panelists.
You're most welcome, sir. What is your question or comment?
Actually, it is a compliment more than a question. I think we should compliment the Voice of America, the director and the team, because in this increasingly dictatorial regimes on the continent, we find that the big bulk of our media on the continent has been compromised, has been pressurized. So it is very difficult to get the true story of what is happening. As a result, you can see the benchmarks on the continent, the poverty, the suffering is increasing because the regimes, by and large, have compromised the voices of the voiceless. So I think the Voice of America has gone a good stretch to help, to work as a mirror of what is happening on the continent. It has been first-hand on the important development on the continent, on the elections, on the disease, on the catastrophes, And I think the African people have been able to get the true picture of what is going on. It has actually actualized the globalization of the continent. It has been able to connect the continent to even the bigger world. Though there is only one problem which you are still facing, that much as many of these issues have been mirrored by the Voice of America, there seems to be little movement as far as the suffering of the people on the continent are concerned. Is there a way in which the Voice of America can try to engage more the policymakers? Because as you heard, the gentleman from Ethiopia, the way he was complaining, much as America is giving aid to Ethiopia, the Voice of America is not allowed to broadcast freely. So is there no way in which the Voice of America can be able to influence some of these policymakers?
Is that true, David, that the Voice of America is not allowed to broadcast freely, given the charter that I have read?
Well, he's, I think, referring to jamming. We broadcast. Sometimes it is blocked or partially blocked by governments, and Ethiopia is one of those that does that sometimes.
Right.
I mean, can we influence policymakers? We are not policymakers ourselves. But our job is to ask questions, sometimes quite pointed ones. I think we have to be courageous and ask quite tough questions sometimes, and I know you have done that from time to time.
I give you my best shot.
We've had African heads of state here in these studios more than once, and I'm sure we will again in the future. And they come because they know that they can reach a lot of people through us.
That's very true.
But in the process, they may have to answer sometimes uncomfortable questions, because our job is to be asking questions, the ones that we think our audience may want to know the answers to. So that continues to be our role. I think we can. I think it's a remarkably important role. But we're never going to be policymakers, and we're not going to be able to tell presidents what to do. We can simply ask them about what they've done and why they haven't done X or Y or Z. And we do that without fear or favor, and I think that's our role.